Welcome to the Growler, a Who Dat podcast hosted by Paul Dana and other bald friends like Mo Egger, Dave Niinemets, home of all your Bengals breaks, takes. Welcome to the Growler.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of Balds Don't Lie on the Growler. Paul Dana Jr. of The Athletic. And I'm excited today because, you know, people have been clamoring, knocking down the doors, sending the emails, filling my mentions. Got to get Dave. Where's Dave? Is he okay? Is he alive? What has happened? We got to get Dave back in the mix now that we've got the content machine humming. Here you are, Dave. What's up, buddy?
The only explanation I have for people as to where I've been is we have a plan. We have a plan, and we're gonna just stick with that plan. I can't tell you more about why I wasn't here.
Let's keep it vague.
There's a plan.
Look, I'm happy with our communication and how we've communicated.
Yeah.
About the plan, and that's all that matters.
Yeah,
that's all that matters. And so people don't worry about it. Everything's just fine.
Don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. Hey, I'm sorry I didn't wear you and Jay had the matching teal last night or yesterday. Yeah. What happened there? What was that?
That was not planned. It was not planned. Okay,
it was tough on the
know that we were both going to be in matching teal, sea green. Someone commented that possibly it was a sea green situation.
Very much like a Dolphins, special Dolphins edition of the Growler. The flipper.
Normally, that is a, the shirt on our training camp reports. That shirt that I've been wearing that one. That's an old school training camp favorite, as our good friend Kareem El-Ghazar would call it, a Dana camp favorite. I've had that one for a while. It's good. It plays off a lot of different colors because it's got a lot of different things going on. Sure. It does say hello a little bit. It's pretty active.
Mm-hmm.
But when someone shows up with a predominant sea green right next to it, it really brings all of it out. Thank you for noticing.
Sure.
Thank you for noticing.
I just want you to know that I'm a viewer. I'm a fan as much as a participant. It's part of the plan. So.
That's all part of the plan that we talked about. I hope people are enjoying those. Jay and I doing about 10 minutes after every practice of going through a play, a takeaway, and a thing they say, which caused somebody yesterday to tweet at me, how about I go eat some hay? I can make some things out of clay or go lay by the bay. I just may. What do you say?
Oh, Happy Gilmore reference.
I offered him a nice warm glass of shut the hell up after that. But, I appreciate people dropping. If we're anything, 90s movie references are always going to play.
Always.
What do you say? So let's do it. So I hope people are enjoying those. Though. They're up on the YouTube channel, and then every couple of that we put those together and drop them into the feed as well. You should notice yesterday the day 3 and day 4 are currently up on the Growler feed, so you have that for all of my the olds like us, Dave. We don't always go down into the YouTube wormholes. We like our audio on our walks. And things like that. And so I understand that.
I go get the Growler on cassette from the Anderson Library. Listen to it on my Walkman. I don't have to pay for it.
You have Growler on Discman by any chance? Can I get
That's how I
get the adapter that plugs into the tape cassette player? That's what we need to get it on. That'd be good old school. We need to bring that back.
It would be.
We need to bring that back. Maybe we'll give that away. I want to remind people as well. So excited to be back with BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. They are the exclusive home of Growler live shows this year. I mean, if you came to the draft show, you know how much fun we had down there, how great that venue is. We're like, let's do it up again, but all season long. So we're doing game day shows this year, Dave.
Nice.
It's going to be fun. Like 4 hours before every game, not the 1 o'clock games, but any of the games that are a little bit later. Because look, I got to say 9 a.m. is a little early for me to be rocking and rolling in there. So, but every other game, including on the 10th and the 22nd before the preseason games. We'll be in there doing some live shows. Come in there, get your $3 Cincy Lights and your $6 Queen City nacho trays and all the other good stuff. And we're going to be having some fun. We got some ideas. We're going to have some fun. So we hope we can get some people down there on game days and have a big party with us down there at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. Plus our kickoff show. You've come to that in years. That's going to be down there now. The Thursday before the opener. Ravens Chiefs will be on after we wrap up. That's going to be a fun night. It's going to be fun. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, it's always been fun. Cool to have a new venue. And there's tots. You got
the tots.
Love tots. And if you, like we were last time, you can watch Mo Egger freaking out over his New York Knicks playoffs.
He was freaking out over the Knicks. Mo will be joining us here in a little bit. Hopefully over it. Hopefully over the Knicks season. Back into the positive light that they've gone full reuniting on Villanova.
Yeah.
All right. Let's. I mean, I've got more gags. We'll get to them. Maybe people want to hear a little bit of Bengals talk.
Maybe,
I don't know. Maybe not. The new locker room reveal is out. Big news.
It's very cool.
Has lights, lots of lights. I'm actually after this going to go down there. We're going to get a media tour. Like we're not going to be in the thing like every day, but it'll be cool to get like a real behind the scenes tour and talk through all the new elements. It does look very cool, very futuristic. It does feel like they're up in the club.
Yeah. Honestly, how much do you think? How important do you think that is when you're recruiting a free agent, when they see stuff like that? Do you think it matters that much?
No.
You think it's more for the public consumption to see what a cool
I think it's cool. I think it makes them feel cool, and I think it's nice to have a good one.
Yeah.
I do not think it. I think you know what works for free agents? We'll pay you more than the other guy.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
That's how it's a money game, man. I mean, so much. They're not going to be like, they're not going to pay me as much. But did you see the LEDs in the locker room?
I mean, I was thinking more facilities as a whole, as they've kind of they've got a bubble.
It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, they're adding.
I
mean, you look at like the Cowboys, and it's still night and day as to what you're getting as a player.
Yeah, Minnesota, I know, is kind of known for they've got unbelievable facilities. There's a few that, but they need to be up to date. They need to look cool. I mean, they need to not feel old. And I think the previous locker room certainly felt old, and it was something that was a complaint from players. But you know what you need more than anything? Lots of ways to plug things in. Charge phones, store phones. You get the USB, your special ports. That's what matters most, right? Where's your charging situation? These players didn't have charging stations in each locker. They didn't have any good lighting. When you don't have that, how are you expected to perform at a high level? That's the difference between winning the AFC Championship game and losing the AFC Championship game. Charging ports.
Tim Crumry back in the day did not have to worry about, charging devices.
You know what's an interesting conversation I did have with somebody, though, talking about the background of building, what are they going to do, is there is a weird balance between how do we give everyone all the technology they want without taking away from we're also trying to build team chemistry here and be cool if people weren't just staring at their phones and their ports and things like that, like trying to keep people in the mix. I feel like this is something that every business that tries to get people back into the office is doing right now. Like, how do we get people in here and make it worthwhile, and not just have everyone staring and actually talk to each other? You know how that used to be a thing that people used to do and it used to help build team chemistry and camaraderie in an office setting, and you know your like fellow employees. Remember that? The good old days.
Those were the good old days.
Those were the good old days.
I think about how much I hated being in an office dealing with those very same people. So,
well, obviously, we're not talking about people like you that don't want to be around people. You don't count.
I'm happy spending my day with my dogs. So, it's not about.
That's what you need to do. I think more people could get back in offices if they started letting people bring their dogs to work and they could all play together. Now we're on to something.
Yeah, I think we're on to something.
That's what I can get behind. Anyway, so locker room reveal. We're 10 minutes in and we've really covered the hard topics here so far, Dave. 10 minutes in, we've done it. Locker room reveal, though, is out. It's very shiny. There'll be plenty more on that. You're probably out right now as you're listening to this. You can go find some of that, maybe even on my feed. Pads are on today, kind of the start of everything. You know, we were talking about this a little bit yesterday with Jay. I mean, Zach Taylor has his press conference, and it's like, okay, we've given up on the summer program. Like, you're not really doing the whole off season. OTAs is kind of a joke. Like, they're doing stuff. It's install, but not really. It's always a but. And then now we've get the first 5 days. We've kind of done that too. It's just ramp up. We give guys day off. We just want to make sure everybody's ready when the pads come on. Now it's officially okay. We're allowed to start judging. This is officially what everything has been building towards. Is right now going forward, and they wanted everyone to feel totally prepared and ready to go in terms of working on instinct and not thinking too much, knowing that they've had everything installed, knowing exactly what they're doing, and able to go out there and play fast, because this is the time that they want to start making the judgment. That starts today. That's exciting because I think you'll see the difference. You'll see a major difference. And what's kind of felt, there's been a little bit of a silliness to camp to this point because we've had so many people out and not participating and getting days off and being ramped up.
Yeah. If they should get off to one of their infamous slow starts, does anyone look back at this, namely us, and start pointing to maybe not ramping up sooner? Or do you think this is the right approach?
I thought that, this stems partially from what happened. They came out hard last year, and Joe Burrow had his calf injury, right?
Yeah.
We wrote extensively about the lower extremity injuries, that how problematic they are, how much the league is trying to take them head on and understanding that the vast majority of them happening in this ramp up period, this first week, the first few days of camp. So easing people off, adding in off days for some of these vets, things like that is, I think, good. I think it's also partially a response to that. They're going to have their best chance to start fast if their best players are playing and healthy.
True.
And I think that's a bigger part of this than it is. I mean, come on. We're still, when's the opener? Like, we're still like, we haven't even gotten into the month before the opener is. Like, we haven't even gotten into August yet. So there's so much time for guys to be truly ready, to have everything going. I think it's about assuring that you can get guys healthy to that point, namely number 9.
Yeah,
that's what this is all, to me, what this has kind of always been about. I do have a trends report open, sort of one last look at, I think, some of the major trends that showed up over the first 5 practices, these ones leading up to today and the pads officially coming on, and really kind of an extension of the offseason program and stuff. Did anything stand out to you, Dave, as you went through that with a fine-tooth comb? And
the 2 names that were most prominent were DJ Turner and Andre Iosivas, and those were 2 guys we buzzed about last year. And I guess my question for you is, explain to us the difference between them getting buzz last year versus them getting buzz now in their second year.
I think,
is this more just we're getting a little too excited at the front end, or are you seeing like legitimate strides where these 2 guys look like they're at a new level?
Well, I'll start. I think they're a little separate cases to answer that. Iosivas, I think, legitimate strides, legitimately taken a huge step from where he was. Looks like a different player. Confidence, authority out there, feels, making plays, and it not feeling like, oh, this is a pleasant surprise. I think he looks legit. And last year he was, hey, this is a pleasant surprise. The Ivy League kid, he's doing a couple of things, right? That's nice.
Yeah.
Andre Iosivas, with Jamar and then T missing some, he looks like the best receiver out there. And he's making every play. He's big, he's fast, he's strong. He makes tough catches. He's got you know, he just seems to have a lot of things figured out. And the fact that they moved him into the slot and you see him beating Mike Hilton not once or twice, like it's happening consistently. That's different. DJ Turner is different because we kind of saw this last year and the expectations were higher then. They just need it more now. And because there is no Chidobe Awuzie. You're still got Cam Taylor-Britt on the other side. You're hoping he's going to be what he's going to be. There's not, there's not the net underneath the high wire act here. There's no insurance policy necessarily. They need Turner to be a guy. And I think he looks like he's growing into that. Other players are noticing that, but because you saw it and you saw the fall off at the end of last year, it still keeps that in the back of your mind a little bit of, is this a legitimate? He was always going to be a t-shirt and shorts star. He's a freak show athlete. And so how much of this is just kind of who he is and how much of this is real stuff? I think there's a little bit more doubt with Yoshibach, oddly the 6th round pick. I feel more confident about who he is and what he's becoming than even Turner. And that's not a knock on Turner. That's really just, I think you've seen this arrow way up for Andre.
There were probably a lot of hand wringing moving on from Tyler Boyd, from fans and everything, as we kind of evolved to that, over time. I think by the time he was gone, everybody wasn't sweating it too much. But are you surprised at how good this receiver room looks right now? Like, it feels to me like this is a huge strength if, everybody stops standing on the sideline with ball caps on. But how are you feeling about that receiver room when you look at Yoshibach? You and Jay talked about Charlie Jones had both kind of the good day and the bad day yesterday. He's the guy kind of scraping to get in. Jermaine Burton has people really excited. Like, for the last several years, we went on and on about this trio of receivers and that they may be the best in the league. Are we still having that conversation beyond the top 2 receivers because of the depth of this group?
Yeah, I just think they have more to offer. Now, Tyler Boyd was so good in the slot, but it's just the static nature of him. And Zach Taylor talked about this yesterday. When you take somebody like that, who he was so good in there, that's where he needed to live. Like, you're not going to take him out of there. You just become very static and predictable. And so now without that, there's just lots of different new things that you can do. And because these guys are showing off versatile skill sets, Burton and Yoshibach specifically, now with Yoshibach starting to shine a little bit more in the slot and being a little bit more athletic vertical threats, like, I think they're having a lot of fun with the experiment of what can we do with these guys and the ability to move more people around and use these motions more. And I think you've seen some more of that type of stuff happen in camp, and throw the tight ends in that mix too. And they're very versatile, different types of tight ends. I mean, Tanner Hudson has continued to look very good. We know Gesicki's sort of a half tight end, half receiver, or maybe like 80% receiver, 20% tight end. I'm not sure what exactly the mix is at this point, but I think it's really opens up the playbook for different things that they can do with both of those guys and that position and the scheme and Jamar. And it's just a lot of fun, I think. And that's no knock on TB, because, having that weapon to move the chains, I think I'm curious to see how that plays out when the season starts. How does not having chain mover in the slot, who's a savvy vet who finds a spot in the zone and makes the catch and converts that 3rd and 4. That's not fun to talk about in the offseason, like it is to talk about these guys moving all over and running deep routes, but it's absolutely imperative when they get going. How much will they miss that versus how much will some of this different skill set allow them to be more explosive? I think it's a legit question to wonder about.
Yeah, and the Yoshibach development of being in the slot, if that becomes a thing, is kind of fascinating, because I think, we always assumed Charlie Jones was just the heir apparent. And I don't think this time last year we would have been thinking that maybe Yoshibach is the next one for the slot.
No.
And, you've always got Trenton Irwin, who gives you a lot of versatility and flies under the radar some. It is. It's like, and we've talked about, and you'll do more on it if Jamar Chase bothers to play this year. Dan Pitcher wants to get him inside and move him all over. So you've got a lot of chess pieces there you can move around. But we always, my instinct, and you and Mo talk about it all the time, is to always temper the expectations with a guy like Yoshivas that we fall in love with in camp. But it sounds like after going off with Chase Brown and working with a receivers coach, he's really developing into something. And that's, if he does, man, what a value pick that turns out to be.
It's why you get the lottery ticket pick in the 6th round of the heptathlete from the Ivy League. It's like he's a freak show athlete. If he can be smart enough to figure out how to put it all together, you have the athlete, which is the hardest part. And I think they're starting to see that lottery ticket start to pay off. Dave, appreciate you coming in and joining, and we will have you back soon. There are more gags to be done. There are so many more. All right, and we'll make sure
I can get back to the plan. I'll get back to the
back to the plan, and let's continue the good communication that we've had that we won't tell anybody about.
I'll keep my ball cap on. I'll be here on the sideline when you need me.
Appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk to you later. And that is a great opportunity for us to switch to our good friend and yours, Mo Egger. How we doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. What's going on? Speaking of gags, here's Mo.
Here's my. It's good to have you back from vacation.
It's nice to be here.
You have a tint of red to you. I'm not going to say you look tan, like you spent some time on the beach and it worked, but you look like you got a little red.
I got some red. I didn't get burned. I got color. I didn't get a tan. I didn't get burned. I got color.
Yeah, a pinkish hue.
Yes, a pinkish hue. That's right.
As long as it's some color, it's better than coming back looking exactly the same, like you didn't go on a beach vacation.
As somebody who has suffered some real severe sunburns in his life, I am a militant sunscreen applier, and my daughter has to bear the brunt of this because I'm that parent that is like every 15 minutes chasing her around with the sunscreen bottle. And so I apply very liberally, but I was out there just enough to get, I'm not the color of this hat, which I think I was 3 weeks ago.
Have you seen the 100 that's out there? It's hard to find, actually.
I've seen it. I haven't applied it, but I've seen it.
Boy, that stuff works.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's expensive, and it's like, it's hard to find. You gotta, if you see it, you gotta buy it in bulk. But man, that stuff is good, and it works for those of us that
Yes.
need
Yes.
it.
I badly need it.
All right. Well, I saved an important conversation for you.
Okay.
Dave and I touched on a few different things that are happening, including cool new LED lights in the locker room, and
it's exciting.
How exciting that is.
That is.
But I saved the Jamar Chase topic for you.
Oh.
Because honestly, I'm a little worn out by it. And I need a fresh opinion, but I actually am very curious your opinion, especially considering that you were able to be on vacation for some of this, and not be bombarded with it every day as everyone's talking about it and freaking out. And understandably, as we're now 5 for 5 on Jamar Chase wearing a ball cap on the sideline and Zach Taylor trying to figure out how to phrase his answers. What is your level of give a damnedness with this Chase situation?
Give a damnedness is not very high, but I do think there's some intrigue. I think the intrigue rests with Zach Taylor's role in all this, because I think it's very relatable for anybody who has ever either been a middle manager or worked for a middle manager, because whether it's fair or not, he is the spokesperson for the team. And so he's the only person that you guys talk with that has a requirement to talk with you guys 3 times a week during the season, right? Mike Brown speaks once a year. Duke Tobin is made sparingly available on the record, at least, and players have no obligation to talk. Zach Taylor is the press secretary for the team. Hardcore football people get mad when I put it that way, but he is. And so here he is kind of caught in the middle, right? He's got some juice, but he doesn't have the power to say, yeah, here's the contract, Jamar, go ahead and sign it. he is management, but he doesn't own or run the team. He doesn't make the decisions that Jamar Chase is at odds with, yet he needs Jamar Chase to be at his best. He needs a good working relationship with him. In management, aside, I guess, from Dan Pitcher, no one has a more hands-on working relationship, Troy Walters as well, I guess, with Jamar Chase than Zach Taylor. And so I think his role is oddly relatable. Like I talked about this a little bit on my show, working for a big corporate media behemoth. I've been a middle manager. I've worked for middle managers. And I know how tough that role can be when you have an employee that you need, and you need them engaged and happy and locked in, and you need a great relationship with them, and you need to relate to them. So sometimes they're pissed at upper management, which is making decisions that you can't influence. And you understand they're pissed they can't get a pay raise or a promotion, or they've got something in their career that is getting in their way that you can't move out of their way, and only the people above you can. And you're sympathetic to that. And yet you need this person. And so what do? You work with them. And the example that I gave was, sometimes you might have an employee that can't get a pay raise and they're a little bit disgruntled and you can't do anything about it, but you figure out ways to make them happy in other ways. And so you slide them an extra day or two off, or you figure out a way to work them some sort of perk that maybe it's not available to anybody else. And you do that with the really well-performing employees. That's what Jamar Chase is. We're not talking about, some guy lower on the depth chart, or a guy who's, relatively anonymous with his role. We're talking about, as Mike Brown put it, their second best player. And so I feel like there has been a little ire aimed at Zach, who is in a tough position, but I think is in a position where he and Jamar, they've talked about the plan. And to me, it's all right, dude, I know you're not happy. I know you wish the contract thing would get done. I know you want the Justin Jefferson deal. Maybe if I could slide a contract across the desk, I would. I can't. So what are you going to do about it? You want to do a hold in? You want to take some practices off? All right, cool. You're Jamar Chase. I know you're going to show up on September the 8th. I know you've got chemistry with Joe Burrow. And so you do what you got to do. But like, once you're back, I need you locked in, and I trust you will be. I think that role is really interesting. I think it's a tough role. I think it's made more difficult by the fact that Jamar won't speak on the record. But if he speaks on the record, really, what good for him is that going to do? What good for the team is that going to do? And so the guy left speaking for this is Zach Taylor, who, by the way, I think is probably really good at this role. I think he's really good at sort of understanding, like, there are some guys that got to work some stuff out with the organization, and they've got to make a point, and I've got to give them a long leash, and I've got to give them some rope, knowing that when it's time to go, they're going to answer the bell. And so I think that dynamic is interesting. As far as Jamar and the Bengals, I don't think either side is wrong. Jamar Chase wants a contract. Who wouldn't? Jamar Chase, if you said to anybody, you can get your contract with all the guaranteed money and all the security that comes with it, you can get it now, or we can wait 9 months. Who among us is going to go, yeah, I'll wait 9 months? No one's going to do that, so I can't blame him. And I can't blame the Bengals. Like, hey, I want a contract extension. Well, it says here we have you for 2 more years already. So What's the rush? Like, no one's wrong here. The guy stuck in the middle is Zach Taylor, and I think he's handling it, at least publicly, about as well as anybody could expect.
Yeah, I'm surprised, I guess, a little bit to see him taking on some of the blowback, other than he's just because he's not doing anything here other than just having to meet with us, having to answer these questions that really are not really his job. And I think the idea of saying, look, I think he's clearly just trying to keep this as minimal of a firestorm as possible by using these same 2 lines over and over again about the plan and being happy with the communication, and that being all he's going to say about it, because there's no good for anybody saying anything about it right now. We see what it is. Yes. We know what it is. Like, this is what it is. We've seen this before, by the way. Players have done this before here recently. Joe Mixon, right? I mean, he didn't participate in the year that he was seeking his extension 1 year. This stuff happened. Jesse Bates didn't even show up. Like, holdouts, hold-ins, whatever. This is the time of year. It's happening across the league, right now. Like this type of stuff goes down. And so the idea of turning it on Zach Taylor, who's just out here trying to give any kind of answers and not say the quiet part out loud is kind of silly, in my opinion, when it's really, this is about Jamar and the Bengals. And like you said, I don't know that there's a wrong party in this.
Yeah. And as a situation like this goes, at least as you and I talked this morning, this seems to be going as well as you could ask. Jamar's not sending a bunch of cryptic tweets, right? Although I do love good cryptic tweet. I've sent some myself.
We want that.
Yeah. He doesn't have his agent off doing interviews, popping off on the Bengals like we've seen in days of yore. He's doing the bare minimum. He's not showing up to practice. He's allowing everybody else to arrive at their own conclusion, and it's not a very hard conclusion to arrive at. And he's got his coach doing his speaking for him, which I'm sure on some level he really appreciates. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure on some human level, he has to appreciate that every day Zach Taylor is going out there talking with you guys and having to answer questions that involves a situation that he's kind of helpless in. So, you mentioned in your piece about this happens a lot. It's happening around the league, but as these things go, and maybe things will change, but at least as of now, if the biggest gripe is, boy, Zach Taylor is having to use coded language to sort of let everybody arrive at their own conclusion about what's going on, that's really not all that bad. And again, like I feel like that's where most people here are with this. I think most of us understand where the Bengals are coming from. And I think most of us understand where Jamar Chase is coming from. Where it gets weird, and we saw this to a small degree during the 48 hours where Trey Hendrickson was a national story, where, it becomes same old Bengals that are being cheap. And that's where I start to tune out, because I don't think it's the Bengals doing anything wrong. It's the Bengals doing what they always do with anybody not named Joe Burrow. And by the way, maybe Jesse Bates aside, and we can have a discussion about his value relative to his position. Typically, their upper echelon guys get their second contract. Jamar Chase is an upper echelon guy. He's going to get his second contract. Mike Brown said as much. Yes. The most striking thing during all of this was the very emphatic endorsement that Mike publicly made for keeping Jamar Chase. If you're worried at all about how this is going to unfold long-term, default back to that, because there is no way in hell, and you know this better than I, there is no way in hell Mike Brown says what he says about Jamar and about his long-term contract status publicly if there was any doubt that it was going to get done.
No, I don't think there is. And that's been my point. The bottom line on this is, and I guess maybe part of this is up for debate, why people think that maybe he might try to sit out a game or two this year to try to make a point and make them nervous or itchy or whatever. I don't necessarily buy that. But is that he's going to play this year and he's going to get paid by the Bengals. Mm-hmm. I don't know that these are necessarily disputed facts. Like I just, that's the truth. And that's what really matters. And that's why the Bengals can kind of sit back and let this play out a little bit. The other part about it that you said was talking about him doing the bare minimum. I actually think he's doing more than the bare minimum. He's doing everything except practicing. And I know that's the most important part, but he's out there after practice yesterday on the jugs machine. He's working on the side with players and working on releases with T and Jermaine, talking to Jermaine Burton, and he's at practice, doing stuff. He's in the meetings. But if he was really trying to make people nervous or really kind of trying to be an a-hole about this, he didn't have to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like he could just show up, leave, not talk to anybody. He'd not even go out to practice, pretend he has an injury, be like, I have a calf, and just disappear into the training room for the month. Like that's not what's happening. And so, and then when you talk to Zach Taylor and hear him talk about, well, we joked about Jay sort of kind of getting him yesterday with the question about, look, you said everybody that's healthy is going to practice. Does that mean Jamar's going to practice? And he kind of like, he got me on that one. And he's basically some version of an old Marvin Lewis, we'll see. It's because he doesn't know. Like, he doesn't know what Jamar is going to show up and want to do tomorrow. He doesn't know what's going to happen with their contract tomorrow. So he has to keep it open-ended and just say, I don't know. I'll be as excited to find out as you guys will what Jamar's going to do tomorrow, because I don't think that he knows. And so to turn it into this thing that there's some conspiracy and he's leading this is crazy. And I think that Jamar is doing more than he has to. So yeah, you're right. It is like the best case scenario of how these situations kind of can go, considering how big of a deal it is.
All right, I have two questions for you. Number one, if we're still doing this in 2 weeks, does it change how we talk about it? Like, how long does this go? I mean, we're 5.5 weeks away from the first game. So there's a world of time between now and 1 o'clock on Sunday, September the 8th. How long does this go before we go, okay, can we start?
Can we be done with this?
Can we start moving Jamar around on the football field like we talk about so much? Like,
yeah,
I think that's a legit question, because, you know, you've talked extensively about how Joe and Jamar, if there are two people in football that have better chemistry, I'd like to see who they are, right? It's at the same time, we've seen clunky starts to the season, and there are a lot of reasons for that, but could you say lack of offensive chemistry contributed in both cases? Maybe a little. And so, you know, I mean, I think it is fair to go, okay, it's, as we talked this morning, it's July 30th. The first game is more than a month away. If it's August 15th and we're still doing this, does there become sort of an eye roll factor with everybody involved? And by everybody, I mean the team. And then do you start to go, okay, it'd be kind of cool if Jamar was practicing. I mean, I wonder, and I don't know the answer to this, and maybe the answer for me personally is never. Like, show up at 1 o'clock on Sunday, September the 8th, and I don't care. But between now and then, do we get to a point where this becomes, where we talk about it a little bit differently?
I think August is whatever. I think that with every day you eye roll a little harder in August, but you don't really care.
Yeah.
I just think once it becomes, okay, it's regular season mode now, need you to be ramped up and not go have a, I don't know, a calf injury in the first game because you weren't properly ramped up and things like that becomes part of that equation. I think that during the preseason, I'm okay with whatever's going on for the most part.
That's where I am. That's where I am. Yeah. I
don't really care. I mean, it's just a thing that's happening in the background. Go do you. But once it becomes about to be go time and you start getting to the end of September and Labor Day and all that stuff, then I think it becomes something that what's happening here? Are we doing this? And why is this still going on? But between now and then, you eye roll a little harder every day, but it doesn't start to be a thing where you feel like we need to be serious about this. I don't think.
Yeah. So for me, there's so much more time now between the last preseason game and the first real game because they've eliminated the fourth preseason game. If we're in that area and this is still happening, okay. Like,
yeah,
then maybe it changes. For me, it's an interesting story, and it also is like the things that happen on the field during training camp, which I know get ramped up when they put the pads on today. That stuff is so much more important. Like,
yes,
Jamar Chase is going to be awesome this year because he's Jamar Chase. Do they have enough offensive line depth? Is the secondary fixed? Is Sam Hubbard okay? Is the pass rush going to be better? Are they going to be a more explosive running team? Like, all this stuff that we're really not going to get complete answers to during training camp isn't being talked about at all. And that's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, but I kind of said on my show on Monday when I came back, it's like, yeah, I've paid attention to all this stuff happening with the Bengals, and you would sort of think, boy, everything else is fixed. Like, this is a training camp where they really do got to get some stuff done and be more ready to go in week one than they have been over the last couple of years. Here's my second question. And this is maybe a little bit unfair. I think we've talked about Zach Taylor's role. I think watching it from where I sit, he is handling this as well as you could expect. How do you think his predecessor would handle this with you guys?
I think he would be condescending and laughing at us. Now, that's not fair. That's not fair. He just, obviously he wouldn't have as soft of a touch, I don't think, as Zach tends to have with us.
I think he would be more willing,
a little bit more brute force.
Yeah, I think he
And
would be a little bit
dismiss-
more willing to express his exasperation with having to talk about it every day.
Yes, no question. No question.
And I don't know that I would blame him. I don't know that I would blame him.
No, and I think that there's different ways to get the same point across.
Yes.
In a lot of ways. But yeah, a laugh and a we'll see would probably be the answer to just about every single question that probably would be asked. I do have one thing for you before we leave. It's been a while since we have properly talked about aliens.
Yeah, it has been.
It has, and things have happened, but I'm not going to go with that because I got a really good question. This came a while back, and I just haven't been able to get to it with you because we've had either somehow more important things to talk about or been on vacation or whatever. But this was from Andy, who said, it occurred to me recently, seems to be agreed that aliens are bald. That leads me to conclude that upon first contact with humans, they will naturally trust bald humans more than non-balds. Do you agree? And if so, does the U.S. government have a list of balds designated to represent humankind at first contact with aliens? And he noted that he really enjoys the podcast, looks forward to our very serious discussion on this important issue. And my add to that, my PS, and thanks, Andy, for the question, would be, would you want to be someone who was asked as a bald to confront or say hello to aliens if the government came to you and asked you to do such?
Even though I watch the continued breakdown of society on a daily basis, I still think enough of mankind that I wouldn't want me as the representative of it. Right?
By the way, what would the reaction be if like the press secretary at the White House is like, we've chosen this guy.
Yeah.
He's a radio host. We just feel like him.
Hey,
he'll be able to talk to him.
Maybe if like the aliens showed up and the first person they saw was me, they would go, we put a lot of time and effort into getting here, and for this, let's pack things up and go back to wherever. It is a fair point, though. You never see an alien with hair, do you?
There should be.
Right. I mean,
why not?
You do never see an alien with any sort of follicle up top, which is interesting to me. And I'm sort of wondering who was the person that made the decision that every depiction of an alien ever has to include no hair. I don't know who would be on the consortium of bald people to represent humankind.
Yeah.
I don't know that you want me on that. I don't know that I'm the best representative for all people.
What about the Raging Cajun, James Carville? He'd be good.
Oh, God, we haven't seen enough of that guy recently, have we?
I mean, we need someone who can talk to him,
Yeah.
Well, he can talk straight.
Yes. Yeah, he could definitely do we want him? And this is not a political statement. Do we want him representing like who do we want representing? Not Cincinnati, not the United States, humankind. That's a tough task. So
what about Dan Horde?
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
Is there anybody more universally beloved?
Universally beloved, soft touch, understanding, empathetic.
Can talk to anybody.
Absolutely.
Well-versed
anybody,
in
including
subjects.
aliens. I think he'd be legitimately interested in their backstories. Professional. I think you'd want it. I think maybe that's the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. But because, Dan's plate's not full enough.
No.
So here's what we're going to ask you to do on top of the games and the podcasts and all this stuff you do. We need you to go represent humankind.
Yeah. I think it's fair. It's a good question to think about. And I wish that we had, we're getting closer. How stunned would people be if there was just like the hair, just a ball of hair turned out to be like from the aliens like that? That would be just stunning.
Would be
People
a
would be
big
shook.
slap. It would be a big slap in the face to you and I. Here's where all the hair is, right? Huh? Spent my entire adult life wishing I had that, and here it is coming off a spaceship. That would be the ultimate middle finger to someone like myself.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I thought it was a great question. I thought it was important that we brought it up and keep ourselves, in touch with the alien. There's a lot of other stuff that's been happening in the alien community, but we don't need to go all the way there. I just wanted to make sure that I hadn't forgotten about it and it's not going away.
No,
maybe listeners are like, really? Can it?
Yeah,
But,
we're gonna do this bit again.
yeah.
Another season of this. Can you find something
Never
else?
Never going away.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure we got that for you. And you know, again, you don't have anything else to do other than sit here and talk about weird alien
But
controversy.
again, like
either.
this topic was birthed on this podcast, I think about a year ago.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly why we introduced this into the conversation, but my point was things in our world are so chaotic that when we have people testifying in front of Congress that, yeah, there are aliens, we are so just burned out and we are so incapable of being shocked by anything that the overall reaction was like, eh. And there have been times in our lives when if we found this out, it would be earth-shattering news. It would be the only thing we talked about. And yet, when we are listening to pseudo-credible people acknowledge the likely existence of outer beings, our world is so screwed up that our general reaction is, okay, whatever, fine, there's aliens. Like, that's how worn out we are by just life in the United States in the third decade of the 21st century.
And a reminder that the new book from Louis Elizondo, Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs, Imminent, is coming out on hardcover on August 20th. Make sure you pick that up.
This has nothing to do with aliens, but can I talk about this for 2 minutes?
Nothing to do with aliens. Then why are you bringing it up?
It goes down the road of like conspiratorial stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I come back from vacation and I had for like 2 days the world's worst cold. Like got a COVID, and I had a home COVID test negative, world's worst cold. So I'm laid up in bed. Don't want to get anybody sick. Watching the Olympics, watching the Reds not hit. And so I'm going on Amazon Prime, trying to find like a good documentary. And I see this one called like JFK X, the Zapruder film.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's been a while since I've like boned up on any new information about JFK, right?
Sure.
So the tagline for the thing is like a new and insightful deep dive into the Zapruder film, the famous film that shows President Kennedy being shot. And I'm like, all right, I'm game. Let's do it. So I watched this thing. It's 90 minutes. And for the first 45 minutes, this very droll narrator sort of walks us through everything that led up to the assassination and then everything that followed after the assassination. It feels pretty fact-based, right? And he talks about the Warren Commission and some of the different weird conspiracies out there. And then about midway through, they pivot to this filmmaker guy. And he starts breaking down the Zapruder film in painstakingly, like just minute, detailed fashion. And I'm like, okay. And he's talking for a while and I'm wondering, where's this going? And about 20 minutes in, it hits me. This man is making the case that JFK faked his death.
Wow.
And
you're 45 minutes.
At this point, I'm over an hour in, right? And I'm like, are you kidding me?
He's currently living in Bermuda with Tupac.
Basically, that was the premise. It was like, well, what he did is, I would tell you not, because we have enough like kooks out there that you should not be paying attention to. Yet this guy's premise was so laughably stupid, I couldn't help but get to the end of it. And then I hated myself. And like my wife comes in to check on me. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, I just spent 90 minutes watching this man try to convince me that JFK faked his death. And she's like, you need to take the NyQuil, man. Like, unbelievable. So if you want to watch the weirdest, most unhinged, in a world where we can't have enough conspiracies, right? And by the way, this wasn't on some like weird it was on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Right?
Was it like in there, like, how did it show up to you? Was it in your favorites? Do you have a conspiracy section? Like you watch many conspiracy documentaries.
No,
maybe you like this one.
I like there was a documentary about the mob that I had just watched, right? It was really good. The mob in Vegas. Like I like documentaries. I like historical stuff. And like the description made it seem totally legit and plausible. So I'm either telling you to not watch this, or if you want to spend 90 minutes watching the most half-baked thing I've ever seen in my life, which is saying something, maybe that'll be this year's theme, conspiracies. I have no idea. This has nothing to do with aliens, certainly has nothing to do with the Bengals, but it's like JFKX, what really, I don't know. But there's this man staring into a camera, and for 45 minutes, he will outline for you why, if you study the Zapruder film and know all the background information, JFK faked his death and probably snuck off to an island owned by the guy who would then marry his wife. This is how I spent my Saturday night.
I like the idea. Like, remember when it was a big deal when with movies they put the rating system in? It was like, okay, we're going G, we're gonna have R, we're gonna have, PG-13. I think there should be a C rating for just crazy or kook or whatever you want to whatever you want it to be for, so we can know ahead of time, like a Surgeon General's warning. This is a crazy conspiracy involved in this. So just know that you're diving into the crazy world. I
did go on my phone and read the reviews, and there were a lot of people offering like, hey, don't watch this. I spent 90 minutes. Spare yourself. I had only, but that probably would have made me want to watch it more. Like, that's the thing. So anyway, I needed to talk to somebody about this. My wife had zero interest.
And you're like, you know what? I'm going on Paul's pod in a little bit. This will be a great opportunity for me to get this off my chest.
I've been trying to figure out a way to get this off my chest somehow publicly with someone, and you were the first person I thought of.
Well, maybe I'll think of if there's something crazy that I have, I'll pull it out tomorrow when I join you on ESPN 1530 from 3 to 4 Wednesday this week, because we're in training camp weirdness, off day Wednesday. So I'll be in there and we can discuss everything that we've heard and what our plan is going forward. So, Mo, I appreciate it. Also, big thanks to Dave for coming back on, and thanks everybody for listening. We'll talk to you next time on the Growler. Balls Don't Lie. Have a good one.